Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathapnoti nibodh me samaseneva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya yapara. Hello friends, this is the 50th shlok of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and today we will understand this shlok in detail. So let's first go over its meaning. So the shlok says, Siddhim prapto yatha brahma, which means attained perfection as Brahma. Tathapnoti nibodh me, which means that way attains my realization. Samaseneva kaunteya, which means by perfection definitely, O kaunteya. Nishtha jnanasya yapara, which means which is the ultimate of faithful knowledge. So Shri Krishna now say that the one who has attained perfection has attained Brahma, and by that attainment he attains my realization, which is the ultimate faithful knowledge. So Shri Krishna basically is now transiting. He is now going to describe the person who has attained perfection, and he is transiting from how one attains perfection to now basically what kind of a person is the one who attains perfection. So that transition is happening in this shlok, and basically he is just reaffirming to Arjun over here that the one who attains the knowledge of Brahma attains me, and therefore attains the ultimate. So we have come into this world to attain that. That is what is the attainment that we should go after. We should not really go after attainment of wealth, fame, money, sex and things like that. So that is the transition which is happening over here, and that's what Shri Krishna is saying. Now what we have to understand is that the source of our problem is our incorrect outlook. Basically there is this sort of incorrect outlook which everybody thinks to be correct, and I don't know why it is like that, but it is basically like that. So there is basically no reason for us to believe that we are our body. There is no logical reason for us to believe in it, and yet that is what is our default way of thinking. That is what we think in terms of our belief when we go default. So a materialist will always argue that, oh, I do not really believe in reincarnation of the soul. I do not believe in the soul and the reincarnation of the soul because there is no proof of the existence of it. But now if you provide a counter argument and say that, okay, sure, your argument is there, but there is also no proof for the non-existence of the soul, and there is also no proof of the assertion that the reincarnation does not really exist. So how can you go into one bias and not onto the other? But a materialist will still not buy onto this argument. He'll still go into the default way of thinking that there is no soul, we are our body, and there is no reincarnation. So this sort of an understanding, wrong understanding, is what is the influence of Maya that we talk about, and it is basically there. This is the darkness of ignorance in which everybody is. This is what is the darkness that we talk about. So our problem basically is that we have this wrong outlook to begin with, and this wrong outlook, for no reason we believe in it. So what has happened is that we have gathered a lot of facts in the modern times. With science, we have gathered a lot of facts about how this world functions, how Earth rotates around the sun, how sun works, how nuclear fission actions, how atoms act, how these particles are. We have gathered a lot of facts in terms of how these things work, but we have still not really understood the truth. We foolishly believe that these facts is the entire knowledge, and so now we know everything about the world. We know how gravitational force acts, we know how electromagnetic force acts, we know how weak force acts, we know how strong force acts, and so we now understand the world. That's what we think, without really knowing the real truth, because that truth is basically the knower himself. So no knowledge is complete without the knowledge of the knower. And if you don't know the knower itself, then how can you really say that you have entire knowledge? It's like, looking at a scene and without knowing from where you are seeing it and then saying, oh, I know everything about the scene. It's basically like looking at a picture and without really knowing where this picture was taken and from what point of view this picture was taken, and saying that, oh, I know everything about it. I know there are mountains here, I know there are trees here, so I know everything about this. Well, you don't really know from which point of view you are looking at it. So how do you know everything? So that is the problem. The knowledge is only complete when the knower is known. And what happens is that with science and with all this materialistic knowledge, that knower is not known. So you can go around in the world knowing everything, how the plants grow, what is there in the rocks, all of that thing, all the biological processes, physical processes, chemical processes, you can understand all of that. But if you don't know the knower who is knowing all of this, then your knowledge is incomplete. But still people fall for this trap, and this is so illogical, and yet people fall for it. Why? Because they are all surrounded by the darkness of ignorance. It's basically like saying that I look at this world from a small pinhole and then say, oh, I know the entire world. Well, you are just looking at it from that small pinhole. How can you really know the whole world? So the situation is that as a person, what you have experienced is very little. So your intellect, very little intellect has experienced what you are experiencing as a person. But deep inside your heart, an infinity is hidden. And that infinity is Sri Krishna. The goal of life is to attain that infinity, and not really, go deeper and deeper and deeper into this limited intellectual knowledge. That is not the goal of life. The goal of life is to know that infinity which is hidden inside all of us, that is hidden in our heart. But we don't go after that. We just go after our intellect and that limited experience that we are having as a person. So this is just all twisted in the opposite direction. So to attain Sri Krishna, we have to go and dive deep within inside our heart and reveal that infinity which is there. And he can be attained only when we'll renounce ourselves. If we'll remove ourselves as a person, if we remove ourselves, our little intellect and all this little me that we have, if we don't remove it, then we'll not be able to attain that infinity. He can only be attained by removing this. And that is what is the renunciation. Renunciation of the self, renunciation of the mind, renunciation of our intellect, renunciation of ourself, me, this small being, renunciation of that. Then only we can attain that infinity which is deep inside us. If we are not able to do that. So that was the message of this shlok. I hope that I have explained this shlok well to you. With that, I'll close this video. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.